Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing 3 brand new projects featuring some brand new products from the Essentials by Ellen line, available exclusively at ellenhudson.com. These are brand new today and you are going to love this collection of products. Now, I'm going to be using several of these products in today's projects, and I'm kind of featuring the Strawberry Fields stamp set that you see here, but I wanted to give you a quick flip through of all of the products that were released today. I'll also be using this berry basket die. Now, this is really cool because you can create a 3D basket with it or use it on a card like I've done today. The Casual Greetings is a great product suite because there is a stamp set, a hot foil plate, and coordinating dies available. And we couldn't forget Bear. So if you've been a follower of the Essentials by Ellen line for very long, you know that Bear is a very popular man in this line. And he has some brand new bearware as well as some sentiments. And then to complete the release, there's some more sentiments as well as some classic block numbers and symbols. So we're going to be doing a little ombre stamping on die cuts today. And I have to tell you that Mindy Egan really inspired how I am doing this stamping on the die cuts today. And I've used negative die cuts before to do some stamping onto die cuts. But this was really an idea that I saw on her channel where you kind of stamp it on a scrap piece of paper first and then arrange the negative die cut around that. And I'll show you that in more detail, but I'm going to start out with the Strawberry Fields coordinating die set. I've taped them in place using some removable tape onto a piece of Nina Solar White 110-pound cardstock, and I've run that through my die cut machine. And I am going to be left with a stack of plain white die cuts when I complete this process. So I have several of each of those die cuts up there at the top of my screen that you can see now. Now I am adding a piece of scrap paper into my Misty stamping tool. And this is going to allow me to stamp right onto this scrap paper and then arrange the negative spaces to the stamps. Sometimes I put the negative space of the die cut into the Misty stamping tool and try to position the stamp perfectly inside of that die cut, and I don't always get it right. And so this is a little bit different way of doing it that you can try if you have some difficulty lining that up. So you can see I have no negative die cuts in the Misty now, just the scrap piece of paper. And for this initial stamping, you can use whatever color ink you want. So I just grabbed whatever was closest, and I am going to make sure that that scrap piece of paper stays pushed up into the upper right-hand corner of my Misty. And now you can see I've cut apart the negative die cut space for that flower, and I've lined it up around the stamped image. So I'm not trying to position the stamp itself inside of the negative die cut space. I already know where that stamp is going to stamp because it's stamped on my scrap piece of paper. So I'm just cutting each of these negative die cut windows apart and positioning them over the stamped image so I can get it perfectly centered, and then holding it in place with some washi tape. Now, yes, I'm a little extra. I'm using some gold washi tape. It's what's on my desk. So that's just what I decided to use, but you can use whatever repositionable tape, or you can actually use permanent tape for this as well if you want to throw these away at the end. But I wanted to be able to pick these up and move them for the next step in the stamping process. So once I have the negative die cut spaces arranged around each of those stamped images and held in place with the washi tape, I've taken a white die cut and positioned it inside of that negative die cut space. And now I am inking up the stamps in the various colors, and I'm stamping them onto the die cuts. Now for the strawberries, I started with the Concord and 9th Grapefruit ink, and my Grapefruit ink pad really needs to be re-inked. But that's a whole thing, you know, you got to dig out the ink and all of that. So I'm just going to stamp it a couple of times. I have stamped that flower up in the upper right-hand corner in the Catherine Pooler Lemongrass ink. And then I have stamped the inside veins of the leaves in some Catherine Pooler Martini. Now I am adding my next color set, and I've inked up the strawberries once again in Grapefruit ink. and then added a little bit of the Catherine Pooler Coral Cabana along the bottom and softened out the edge of that with a blending brush. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to stamp these strawberries a third time, but because these die cuts are remaining in that frame of the negative die cut piece, I'm stamping in the exact same spot every time. This time, I'm just adding a little bit of the Coral Cabana ink to the very bottom of the strawberries to intensify that color using a blending brush. So now that I have all of the first steps of all of these images stamped, I can go ahead and remove those from the negative die cut space, and I can put brand new white die cuts into each of these negative spaces and repeat that process again. So you can see I'm just nestling those into that negative die cut space, and then I'll stamp these again. Once again, I'm using the same colors to stamp all of these. I'm going to start out with the Concord and 9th Grapefruit ink on the base of the strawberries all over it. And I'm using Martini ink on the veins of the leaves, and then Catherine Pooler Lemongrass ink on that little floral there. Now, I absolutely love the way that this really bright lemongrass green goes with kind of these softer corally pinks. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I am using a color palette that my friend Heather Meeson suggested to me to create all of my cards today. So none of the cards are the same, but they all coordinate really well because I'm using the same colors on all of these cards. And that is one of my favorite ways to create, is to pick some products and pick a color palette and create different cards using that same color palette. It really is a great way to let your imagination kind of flow and kind of just blossom if you stay within a color palette. I find that sometimes if you're trying to use too many products and too many colors and you have your entire craft room at your disposal, it can almost limit your creativity because you have so many choices. But when I want to create a lot of projects in a short amount of time, I will limit the color palette that I'm using to a few colors. I'll find some colors that go well together. And that really just helps keep me focused, and I can create a lot of different card projects, but they all kind of coordinate together because they're using the same products and the same color palette. Now, once I have the first layer of all these die cuts stamped, I can go ahead with the second step in this two-step stamping process. Now, you can see this is the way that I usually do it. I line the stamps up inside of the negative die cut space and then pick them up with the MISTI. But I will tell you that I did not get these lined up perfectly despite my best efforts, because these clear stamps, it can sometimes, even though you can see through them, it can sometimes be hard to get the alignment just right. And you'll see that as I stamp into the negative space of each of these images, some of them were good and some of them were not quite where I wanted. So the ones that were good, I left the negative space in place, and I'm going to stamp those stems on the strawberries and the center of the flower just as they are. But the big solid portion of the leaf, I did not get it lined up how I wanted it. So I'm moving that leaf stamp to a different part of my scrap paper and I'm stamping it. And then I'm going to take that negative space of the die cut that I had up at the top earlier, and I'm going to move it down to where it's centered around that solid piece of the leaf. So if you happen to get it right, you can just leave the negative die cuts in place. If you need to move it around, you can always replace that piece of scrap paper as well. And the scrap paper I use is generally just some things that I've printed on my printer that I was either done with or I didn't need anymore, or maybe it didn't print right. I tend to save all of that computer paper, and I have a little stack in my craft room where I keep all of that to use for various things like this. So now I'm inking up all of these stems and the solid portion of the leaves in that Catherine Pooler Lemongrass ink, and the center of the flower I decided to do in that Martini ink. Now, I don't think that I actually used any of the flowers, but look at all of these adorable ombre stamped strawberries and those beautiful bright green leaves. Now, for a couple of my cards, I wanted to use the Casual Greetings hot foil plate. So I have my Gemini FoilPress here, and I am turning it on and heating it up to a medium heat. And I'm placing the Casual Greetings hot foil stamp onto the platform of the FoilPress. And I wanted to show you how I am kind of storing some of my foils for the Gemini foil press. This is actually the Glimmer foil, which is the Spellbinders brand. And I find that you can use it with the foil press, but you do need to use a little higher heat. So that's why I have my foil press on the medium heat. So I'm placing that with the pretty side of the foil facing the pattern of the foil plate and the dull side of the foil facing my paper. Now I'm using a smooth white hammer mill cardstock and I'm covering the top of this and I'm allowing this to heat up. And then once it's heated, I'm going to run this through my Gemini Junior. And that plate that's on the top is the plate that's included with the Gemini foil press. So you're gonna see when I remove the plate and I pick up my cardstock, I have a perfectly foiled image on the smooth white cardstock. Now, I absolutely love the look of a hot foil sentiment, but if you don't have a foiling system, keep in mind that these same sentiments are available in a stamp. So you could stamp these and heat emboss them in gold for a similar look. Now, I am taking all of the coordinating dies that are available for this Casual Greetings hot foil plate, and they also coordinate with the stamp set as well. And I'm lining them up around those foiled greetings, and I'm running them through my Gemini Junior to die cut them out. And check this out. Wow. I absolutely love this, and it thrills me every time I get that beautiful cut and that beautiful foiled sentiment. And I just love me a good die cut sentiment too, I'm not gonna lie. So now I am creating a very simple stamped pattern. I am using an older Essentials by Ellen stamp set here. That is the Pattern Play stamp set along with some Catherine Pooler Twilight ink. It's Blackjack ink. And then I have the brand new Abstract Nature stamp set from this release from the Essentials by Ellen line. And I'm taking this larger kind of abstract piece here and I'm stamping it in the Concord and 9th Grapefruit ink. Now I'm going to take one of the Essentials by Ellen Essential Rectangle dies and I'm going to die cut this panel, and that's going to leave me with a nice wide margin on my finished card. Now I thought it would be really fun to make the seeds of these strawberries gold. So what I've done is I've used my Zig 2-way roller ball pin here and I've added glue to the seeds. Now keep in mind there is a stamp for the seeds, so if you wanted to heat emboss this, you could. I've allowed that 2-way glue to dry completely and it dries tacky. And then I'm taking that Champagne Glimmer hot foil that I used earlier to hot foil my greetings, and I'm pressing that onto the tacky glue, and that gives me a perfectly foiled seed pattern on these strawberries. I absolutely love this little detail. And when you allow that glue to dry, it will dry with a little bit of dimension if you put it on there thick enough. But the key is to let it dry completely. So I've done that with my strawberries here, and now I'm arranging them onto this panel that I've created for my card front. And I've added all of that on there using some foam adhesive, and now I've added foam adhesive to the back of this panel, and I'm attaching it to a top folding A2 size card base made from some Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock. And that completes my first card today, featuring the Strawberry Fields Abstract Nature and Casual Greetings hot foil stamp from the Essentials by Ellen line. Now, my second card features a design that I shared on my YouTube channel a couple weeks ago, but a little bit different color and some different images. So I wanted to show you how you can use the same layout in with different images and create a completely different looking card. So I have 4 different colors of cardstock here, and I'm cutting strips that are about 1 1/8 inches wide here and about 5.5 inches long. So I have some colors from Concord and 9th, some colors from Stamp Market, and actually that's it. The Stamp Market and Concord and 9th. And then I'm going to flip these over and I'm going to add some adhesive to the back and adhere them to a panel of 80-pound Neenah Solar White cardstock. Now you could totally add this to like some scrap printer paper, but I wanted it to have a nice firm base. So I've added my first one on there and I've made sure that it's nice and squared up with the top of that cardstock panel as well as the corner, because that is going to be kind of my plumb line for the rest of these cardstock strips. So as I place them onto the cardstock, I'm going to make sure that they're butted up against that initial stripe that I created. So it's really important that your first stripe is straight. And then I'm going to work my way down, and I'm going to take this over to my trimmer and I'm going to trim off the excess. And I can use those little scraps of cardstock, those colored cardstock, for cutting letters or something like that. Now I have another one of the Essentials by Ellen Essential rectangles. I'm taping that in place over this stripe pattern that I've created and die cutting it. And this is going to leave me with the rectangle that's in the middle, as well as a really cool striped frame that I will use on another card as well. So you can see all of the Essentials by Ellen Essential shape dies, the circles, rectangles, squares, they all cut not only the shape itself, but a frame around the edge as well. So they're kind of a 2-for-1, and I really love them. Now I have this panel in the center of my Misty stamping tool, and I'm holding it in place with the Misty sticky mat. And I have the Swirl background from the Essentials by Ellen line, and I'm inking it up using some Versamark ink and stamping it about 3 times in the center of that panel. And originally I thought I would use this Mondo Squishy Hugs greeting, but I changed my mind. So now that that's stamped, I'm adding it to a top folding A2 size note card created from some Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock. And I added that with some foam adhesive. And now I am adding a group of those strawberries, the double strawberry group there, into the center of this panel with some foam adhesive. And I'm finishing the card off with the foiled greeting that says, "Have a nice day." And you can see I added the foiled seeds to these strawberries as well. And that completes my second card. It's super easy, but it packs quite a punch. Now I have the berry basket die. This is brand new from the Essentials by Ellen line, and I'm die cutting it from the Citrine cardstock. And I'm going to actually use this on a card panel. Now this creates all the score lines that you need, and you can create a 3D basket from this die as well. But I decided to use it on a card project today. So I'm just reinforcing the score lines and the folds on the top of this basket, and then I cut off the bottom that creates the base of the basket. And I am going to take this little tag. I die cut it from a die that is part of the Parcel box die set from the Essentials by Ellen line. And I stamped the hello greeting, which is from the Strawberry Field stamp set, onto that tag using some black ink. Now I tied a little bit of twine at the top of this berry basket, and I folded down the little tabs at the top to create that really cool rim of the basket. And I'm kind of arranging my strawberries and things on the top of that basket. And then I'm going to do a little bit of stamping on the card front. So I've masked off some areas where I don't want these strawberries to go below, because I've kind of lined up my berry basket and decided where I want it. So I'm just using some Post-it tape to do a little masking, and I'm stamping some of the strawberries using the Concord and 9th Grapefruit ink. Now keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, my Grapefruit ink really needs to be re-inked. So it's a little lighter than you might get with your ink pad. Now I have the frame that was left over from the panel that I die cut for the previous card, and I'm adhering that onto this card front with a little bit of liquid glue. And now I'm taking my berry basket. I've added some foam adhesive to the back of it, and I'm removing the backer from the foam adhesive, and I'm going to position that kind of at an angle over this stamped area of strawberries that I have stamped onto my card front. Now I have 3 of the smaller strawberries that I stamped earlier, and I'm kind of arranging them where they're poking out of the top of the basket, and I'm adhering those using just a little bit of liquid glue. Then I took that entire card panel and I added it onto an A2 size card base. It's top folding, and I created that with some Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock as well. So there you have it, 3 card projects featuring some brand new products from the Essentials by Ellen line. They're brand new today. And to celebrate, we are having an Insta Hop over at Instagram. I will have my Instagram linked below. So if you want to hop on over there and participate in the hop and enter to win some of these fabulous Essentials by Ellen products, you can. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. And you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. That will be linked below as well. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me here today. It means so much to me that you choose to spend your time here. I know we are busy people, and I just want to say thank you for being here. I hope you were inspired today. If you enjoyed these projects and this video, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications on this YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my paper crafting video tutorials. I would love it if you would leave me a comment below and let me know which of these 3 cards is your favorite. And if you loved this video, I would love it if you would share it with a friend. Thanks for being here. Thanks again for watching. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are one of my favorites. If you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, go ahead and click the button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.